Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Lentz coming to you again through the power of the internet. Today, we're going to talk about parallel structure, which is also known as parallelism. So, if you hear both of those terms used interchangeably, please don't get confused. So, parallel structure deals with the way we structure our sentences. Let's look at these two examples. On the left, you'll see a sentence that is not parallel. The film Star Wars came out in 1977, broke all box office records, and then had won 7 Academy Awards. So, what's wrong with the sentence? The reason why it's not parallel is you'll notice the verbs came, broke, and had won. Came and broke are both past tense, but had won is past perfect. And because we have a list in this sentence, notice the commas. Commas let us know that we have a series of items in a list. But because we have a list, those items are not parallel. They're not equal to one another. You kind of want to think of parallel structure in a sentence as kind of like a weight, right? You want to make sure that each part of your sentence weighs about the same. So the way we can correct this sentence is just by changing the tense of this verb, and then each part of each element within the list will be equal. The film Star Wars came out in 1977, broke all box office records, and won 7 Academy Awards. Came, broke, and won are all in the past tense. This makes the sentence parallel. So the reason why we use parallel structure is because humans are really good at recognizing patterns. That's something that we learn very early on in pre-K. And we like to carry it on into like our writing as we get older. Now, parallel structure can happen with words, it can happen with phrases, clauses, lists, and even whole sentences. Okay? And over here again is the definition. Parallel structure means that we're using the same pattern of words to show that two or more ideas have the same level of importance. Okay? So these are some examples of parallel structure used with words and phrases. We can use gerunds to help form parallel structure. A gerund is just a verb that ends in ing that acts like a noun. They spent the weekend cooking, eating, and laughing. Each element within this list is a gerund, so it's parallel. We can also use infinitives, which is another example of a verbal. Infinitives are made up of the word to plus a verb. Next week, they need to read, to revise, and to complete their essay. We have another list again, but each element within the list are infinitives. So this sentence is parallel. And then going back to our first example, like Star Wars, we can make sentences parallel by modifying the tense of the verb. 2 years ago, he sat, watched, and enjoyed the movie. All those verbs are in past tense, which makes the sentence parallel. You want to make sure not to mix your forms. So let's look at this example. They spent the weekend cooking, eating, and laughed. Right? So we've got we have gerunds here, cooking and eating, and then we have a past tense verb, laughed. It's not balanced. It's not parallel. Let's look at the next one. Next week, they need to read, to revise, and hope they complete their essay. So we have a series of infinitives, right? And then it's broken up because it's not parallel. It doesn't sound as nice. Now, the last example of something not to do. 2 years ago, he sat, was watching and enjoyed the movie. You can see how no matter where it shows up in the pattern, it breaks the parallelism. So those were some examples of how verbs and verbals can be used to create parallel structure, but clauses can be as well. Let's look at these two examples. My dog not only likes to play fetch, but also chase cars. So what's happening here in this sentence is they're using the correlative conjunctions but and also to connect the idea that the dog likes to do a couple of things. The dog likes to play fetch, and the dog likes to chase cars. But the way this sentence is structured, it's not parallel. It places more emphasis on the fact that he likes to play fetch, rather than he likes to chase cars. So in order to make both elements in the list equal, we need to make it parallel. My dog not only likes to play fetch, but also likes to chase cars. Or you can move your verb. My dog likes not only to play fetch, but also to chase cars. Here's some more examples of parallel structure. So when you're creating writing and you want your writing to be parallel, here's some strategies that you can use to try. The first thing you might want to do is skim your paper and make sure that you're pausing at the words and or anytime that you have a list or ideas are connected to one another. You want to check each side of these words to make sure that the items that these conjunctions join are parallel. If they're not parallel, you can change the word to make it fit. If you have several items in a list, try to put them in a column before you actually write them down to make them parallel. But one of the biggest clues to identify elements that are not parallel is just by listening. This goes back to the idea that humans are really good about identifying patterns. So, for example, if there's a series of ing ending words, you would hear a rhythm being repeated. And if something breaks that rhythm, then you need to see if you can change the word or the phrase in order to make it parallel. Hopefully, you found this helpful, and I will see you all in the next one.